Hi guys, welcome to What's This Weapon? I'm Jonathan, and this is the Steel Core HSR Cyclone SC127. It has a lot of names. All but HSR are actually on the gun itself. So, Steel Core, name of the company. We'll come to that in a moment. Cyclone is the product range. So, Steel Core's main range of rifles. There's an LSR, an MSR, and an HSR in respectively 7.62, 308, 338 Lapua Magnum for the MSR and 50 Browning machine gun, BMG, for the HSR. And I couldn't actually find what HSR definitely stood for, but I'm fairly confident it must be heavy sniper rifle, and therefore medium and light. If guys from Steel Core are watching, I didn't have a chance to reach out to you, as they say, so please do correct me if I've got that wrong. Now, what sniper rifle? Didn't Jonathan tell us before that 50 caliber rifles are not sniper rifles? They're anti-materiel rifles? Well, the Barrett certainly started out that way. It was not intended to be a precision rifle per se. Other rifles designed from the ground up to be precision rifles? Yeah, they are, among other things. Steel Core say that the HSR is for accurate long-range interdiction using ball, tracer, armour-piercing incendiary ammunition against hard targets. So it doesn't explicitly say that it's for shooting people, but it kind of is, along with lots of other things. And of course, the power of the cartridge means that hard targets are certainly on the menu. And that could be light armoured vehicles, soft-skinned vehicles, structures, people behind cover, of course, radar dishes, fuel tanks, all the stuff that a big old heavy rifle is good for. But it's also precision, and it comes from a precision pedigree as well. Much like the Accuracy International AX50 or the AS50, they are designed to be precision rifles as well as delivering a payload of some sort in that massive bullet. And as you might expect, the three rifles in that range are scaled versions of the same design. It's this quite distinctive machined chassis, steel and aluminium chassis. Very sort of, it's a heavy rifle, but then all 50 caliber rifles are heavy. But there is seems to have been a deliberate design intent on the part of Steel Core to make this very rugged and robust for use in the field. Now, the Steel Core guys, started out with the company RPA and worked on, or were selling and worked on as well, the RPA Rangemaster range of precision rifles back in this, which I think goes back to the 70s, 80s, or at least the bolt design at the heart of it does. And that's still there in the Steel Core sort of descendant. And that's a similar background, a competition background moving into the military and law enforcement sphere, much like the story with Accuracy International. Something similar happened with RPA, effectively, albeit without the big UK government contract, and the same is true of Steel Core. So we'll see that bolt system. We'll talk about that in a moment when I pop the bolt out. It is somewhat distinctive. It has this lineage from, back into the 60s, I think it was, with the swing rifle and then the RPA Rangemaster and the sort of side shoot of the Steel Core version. So, apart from a very rugged, robust chassis, it's very distinctively different from the Rangemaster rifle. We have a very big, heavy barrel, as one might expect from a 50 caliber rifle. We have this, I guess it's a 6-port, 3-chamber muzzle brake to try and tame that recoil, essential on a rifle of this power level. Quite a distinctive, I think, entirely proprietary to Steel Core bipod design. So to get a better look at that, we'll lie this on its side. So we have the, obviously, feet with adjustable, with a push button, push across, extend the leg, and you have the various notches. Fairly standard stuff. These knurled rings here with the big coil springs, we can pull up and fold the legs forward. Obviously both of them do that. And then in the middle, we have this pull-out feature here. So if we pull out that plunger, there's a screw in the top here that will then align. It's released in order to align with a sort of a almost a bayonet, mortise and tenon type setup, and that means you can then slide off the bipod. Try not to mar the finish there. This is a brand new rifle. So there's the bipod built around that machined ring. There's a sort of a lock-off tensioning screw there to stop it from rotating. With that screwed out, there's that, not really a bayonet, mortise and tenon, but it's a slot. So this is how it removes, this is how it rotates. Now obviously the bipod doesn't do that. The rifle pivots within the ring. So it allows you a certain amount of cant left and right without, because this is a big heavy thing with a big bit of expensive glass on top of it, and it might flop onto its side if it doesn't have a stop. So that's effectively the bipod stop. I'll put that back on because I'm going to need that bipod. Feels like that fairground game. That will then click itself back into place, so you don't have to pull out on that plunger again. That's the bipod. We then have a quad rail, or a semi-quad rail. The rails on the side are not full length. We have cooling slots in this free-floated chassis here. The full-length rail on the top, it isn't quite full length. It is interrupted on the top, as you will see from the side view. This very distinctive, let's prop it back up. Quite a distinctive feature here. Now on the Shitak Intervention, which I haven't got yet, this takes the form of a carrying handle. So you turn the rifle upside down, you carry it with this. I don't think that's the case here, because if you look at the other rifles in the range, the smallest of them has barely any gap there at all, and it isn't really shaped for you could carry it using this strut here, but I think that's a sort of a reinforcement and a lightening thing, and perhaps a stylistic thing as well. Kind of ignore the optic, because you're supposed to put whatever glass on this you think is appropriate. This is a Mayopter 6 to 24 power scope. They don't necessarily come with a scope. That's what we have on this one. Then we're moving back to our magazine. We've got a 5-round magazine. The catch, we'll get you a close-up of, is a push-up paddle. So it's not an AK push-in, it's a push-up, which means you can reach forward with your trigger finger and drop the magazine. So it's their own design of magazine. Sheet metal, folded over. You can see the seam on the base there, with the brand Steel Core marked on the magazine. I don't believe that's interchangeable with anything else. I could be wrong. There's the notch for locking it in place. Of course, the trigger guard is integral. We have a replaceable pistol grip here. The grip that comes with it, very, very chunky, ergonomic shape. In fact, it's literally an ergo grip. And that takes us back to the bolt, the key feature really of any bolt-action rifle. And this extension tube here, / buttstock. Now, so finishing up on this side of the rifle, we have a great big tapered bolt handle there. Quite a short throw. That's a little bit of tension there as it cocks the striker. We have our safety catch just above the trigger guard. So safe and fire. So on safe, it protrudes next to the trigger guard. So in low light or the dark or something, you're going to know that it's on safe. Push forward to switch it off. Then we have this catch here. This is where it starts to get difficult wrangling this thing. So that's a great big sprung lever. We need to push down on that and try and think of the best attitude to do this at so you can see the mechanism. There's the latch, great big, very strong bit of steel there. hooking around this replaceable insert here. So if this stock insert wears, you'd be able to replace that. So almost like the locking shoulder on a machine gun, you could replace that if it gets worn. I assume is the intent there. And then with the stock part folded, you can take your bolt out for cleaning. Let's just flip it over and show you it folded up, because one of the selling points of this thing is that it's pretty short when it's folded, without having to take it apart like you do a Barrett, with that integral sort of buttstock extension on the Barrett. So there's a little peg down here, looks like a little gaming piece or something, and there's a socket there. This is a fairly standard feature at this point, and that should lock in there. So that is your, obviously with bipod folded, that's a relatively compact package for such a potent weapon. And of course we have to have this long slot in the butt for the bolt handle to run in, as the bolt comes all the way back here. Makes the rifle substantially, or the necessary bits of the rifle, a lot shorter, but obviously it's also necessary to have an extension for the bolt to run in. That will let us then remove the bolt. To do that, we obviously need to bring up the bolt handle again, pull it to the rear. We then have this catch here under the buttstock, bolt release catch. You'll see that on other rifles or something similar to it. Press that in and your bolt comes out. And like all 50 caliber rifles, you could probably take somebody out just with the bolt. And it has 4 lugs. So this is one of the features going all the way back to the swing rifle. And it's on the RPA Rangemaster as well. 4 locking lugs, very strong, and very precise as well. This is claimed a ½ a minute of angle precision, so very impressive, especially for a large caliber rifle. We have a typical sprung extractor in the face there, and a fairly atypical, not sprung, ejector. These two features on a typical firearm work together. The extractor hooks out the case. The ejector, it could just be a fixed peg or something, or a blade. When the case hits that, the two work together to flip the case out of the weapon. Those of you who watch the GameSpot reviews, I'm complaining all the time about video game cartridge cases that just come out perpendicular to the gun, because they never do that. They always get twisted out, and then they usually hit something else as well. So they come out not in the way they're often portrayed. Well, in this case, this comes up against an internal feature in the receiver, which hits that, driving that. It's still a plunger, it's just not sprung forward out of the breech face, so kicking the case out on the one side, and because it's hooked on the other side, it spins out of the weapon. Now, obviously, being manually operated, that's all down to how much elbow grease you put in. Not down to any sort of gas or recoil operated system. We have an internal cocking piece there. So this is all very slick and integrated into one assembly. That's the cocking piece. And we have a very short firing pin travel on this thing. So I think it's a 1.6 millisecond lock time is what's claimed for this. So lock time is the time taken for the firing pin to hit between pulling the trigger or release of the sear and the firing pin hitting the primer. So the faster that is, the less chance there is for any sort of disturbance to the system, and even greater precision. So as a comparison, I think a stock Remington 700 manages something like a 2.6 millisecond lock time. This is 1.5. And I think the original swing rifle was a 1.7. Hopefully I'm getting those right. In the similar ballpark to this, but this is even quicker to fire once you press that trigger. So all that means is it's an extremely short time between you pulling the trigger, releasing the sear, and the firing pin hitting the primer to fire the rifle. There will then be a very short lag between the ignition of the primer and the combustion of the propellant. All of that's controllable by loading your own ammunition with very high quality components to try and reduce all of those times to the minimum and a consistent burn and all of that. So this thing, like any sniper rifle, this will function a lot less well on machine gun ammo, actual bog standard bull machine gun ammo, stripped out of links from your platoon machine gun or whatever, than it will with match grade ammunition. You're not going to get that half MOA without match grade ammunition, but that's true of anything. So feed that back in. Close the butt. Now we don't have any 50 cal snap caps, but I do just want to try and convey something of the trigger pull on this. So it's a 2-stage trigger. It's advertised as such. So you take up the slack. There's quite a lot of slack there. Typical military rifle feature. And then, it's a 50 caliber rifle, so it's not going to be incredibly short travel, super crisp, but it's very good. Now, you may be thinking, the Barrett's semi-automatic, or at least most of them are. There's the Accuracy International AS50 as well. Why on earth would you still want a bolt action? Especially if you're using it as an anti-materiel rifle. You're going to want rapid follow-up shots to put multiple explodey holes in things. Well, precision is the reason. It's still, you can achieve, in theory, the same degree of accuracy with an awful lot of money and additional weight as well, and this thing's already quite hefty, with a self-loading design. You can. But what's the point? If you're a mile away, there's not a huge amount of mileage, as it were, in having a self-loading capability. Yes, if it's a dedicated anti-materiel rifle, semi-automatic might make more sense to you, but this is not just an anti-materiel rifle. And in any case, one shot in the right place is going to do the job anyway, and you're likely to get multiple follow-up shots because just by virtue of how far away you are, you shouldn't necessarily know where you're shooting from, not right away anyway. This can be equipped with a sound suppressor that will make that even less, or even more, even less likely to be detected at distance. So, one more thing I need to show you on this are the markings on this side, because it's got a skull on it. And if you know me, you know I like skulls on things. So, let's see if we can spin this around without taking myself or the scenery out. And show the camera over there. So we have SC127, now that's the model number, Steel Core 127. The range is the Cyclone, the model, rather than the number, is the HSR. England, rather than Great Britain or UK. That's a choice for the company to make. They are located in England as well as being located in the UK. I'm sure that's confused some overseas viewers, but... And then in the middle we have an interesting take on the skull and crossbones mark there. It's not actually clear to me what that's the logo for. It's not the logo for Steel Core because that's just the name in a special font. I think it must be, it's either for the HSR, we don't have the other range, yeah, or it's for the Cyclone range in general. But, as I say, always like skulls on things. Your mileage may vary. Now, while we've got it round the other way, worth pointing out, on the buttstock there, we have a section of rail on the bottom here. If you don't like presumably, if you don't like the standard factory monopod, which is what this is, so that standard feature these days, well, and for a long time actually, you can spin that out or in to actually rest the butt, because the less you're having to support this thing, the more accurate you're going to be. So that's the rear monopod, plus with an option for, again, presumably a different one, or for some other accessory that I'm not thinking of. We then have an adjustable rear butt and replaceable rear butt pad with a lot of old squishy rubber there well, not old at all, brand new soft rubber to help with that recoil as well. So yes, brand new in the sense that it's not been used other than proof firing, maybe some test firing. We haven't fired it. The design is very recent, so I don't think this emerged until 2017. The company, Steel Core, founded in 2010, and this rifle would have been made, I believe, in 2020, sometime in 2020. So a lot of you know we collect contemporaneously in this museum, and yeah, we part of our remit is to have up-to-date kit. So this as a British 50 caliber anti-material / sniper rifle definitely fits our remit, and it is extremely cool to look at, it has to be said. Now, being very modern and with plenty of competition on the market, including from like crazy homemade things or craft-produced things in the Middle East, this hasn't necessarily proliferated by any means, but a number were acquired by the Iraqi security services, specifically the Iraqi Emergency Response Brigade. And they were actually out hunting ISIS terrorists with these things. So that they're under the Ministry of the Interior of the modern day Iraqi government. And we do actually have a known user of these rifles, Captain Moqtad al-Sidi, forgive my pronunciation as always, who was out using this along with a couple of other systems, and was due to be interviewed by my friend Miles Vining, who was writing for the Firearm blog at the time, and he was going to interview him about the experience of, well, what he was doing, and we no doubt would have got some sort of combat data, as it were, on this rifle. But unfortunately, the captain was killed in action before that could happen, sadly. But it is no doubt still out there, still doing that kind of work. Thank you for watching, guys. We do appreciate it. As always, check out our various social media channels, and if you feel moved to, we do have a donation link on the website as well. In terms of what's going on, we still have our Reloaded exhibition here in Leeds. That's until the end of June. And also in June, but early June, 6th of June, in time for D-Day, we will be having we'll be opening an exhibition at our Fort Nelson site, which for those of you who don't know is down on the south coast and is well worth a look at any time of year. But if you go in June, you'll be seeing some material dedicated to D-Day, which we're excited about. But we'll see you here again next week.